We continue now at the top of Daf Memches Amud Aleph and Meseches Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 48a. On the previous summer, there was a machlokas amoraim between Abaye and Rava, whether hazmona is milsa or not. The specific case was somebody made a garment for a mace, and so Abaye says just the designation that it would be used for a mace, that makes it asur b'hana. Rava says hazmona lav milsa, does not make it asur b'hana. And the Gemara said that Rava, he learns out from avodah zara, just like by avodah zara hazmona is lav milsa, so too over here. And Abaye, he learns out from egla arufa, just like by egla arufa hazmona milsa, so too over here. The Gemara asks, when it comes to Rava, why does he learn from avodah zara and not from egla arufa? And the Gemara now answers, meshamshin mi meshamshin, those who serve from those who serve, gamrinan, those are similar, so we learn from one from the other. The garment serves the mace, and also by avodah zara, we're really learning from meshamshin of avodah zara. Rashi explains, meshamshin shel mace, mi meshamshin shel avodas kochavim. Again, one who serves, the garment serves the mace, and then the one that serves avodah zara. Gamrinan, that we can make that limud. Delo mitzri bahazmona, we learn out from there, again, that designation is not enough to make it forbidden. And Rashi explains, the high crusher of Dusham, because the pasuk of avodah zara we're learning from, b'mesham she'avodas kochav mukminan, lei b'meseches avodah zara. In Meseches avodah zara, it actually says that that's not talking about the avodah zara itself, it's talking about the mesham she'avodah zara. That's what it says over there again in Meseches avodah zara. So that we learn out. And the Gemara continues, Lafuke egla rufa, that excludes egla rufa. We don't learn from egla rufa dihi gufa kedusha, because that itself represents the kedusha. The egla rufa itself, it's not meshamshin, it's the egla rufa itself, so we don't learn from there. What about Abaye? V'Abaye my time lo gomer me avodas kochavim. Why does Abaye not learn from avodas kochavim amar loch? Because he says to you, midi de'orche mi midi de'orche gamrin. We learn something which is the normal fashion from something which is the normal fashion. Lafuke avodas kochavim the lav orche, that excludes avodas kochavim, which is not called the normal fashion. Rashi explains, midi de'orche means shederech haYehudim lasos kain. It's something that the Jewish people do. Aval avodah zara asura lavod, but when it comes to avodah zara, you shouldn't learn from there, because that's something that's forbidden to do. So that's the idea over here. We're learning something that's normally done by the Jewish people from something, again, that would be normally done, that would be sanctioned. When it comes to avodah zara, that's asur afla b'nei Noach. It's asur even for b'nei Noach, even for non-Jews, hilkach. Therefore, lo mitzra tashmish dida b'hana. So therefore, that use is not going to be asur b'hana af b'azmana through designation alone. Dilma mahadri b'hu v'lo meshamshi b'hu avodas kochavim, because maybe he'll change his mind and he won't end up serving the avodah zara. And the Gemara continues with the two dots. The Gemara says, Meisrei, we have a question from the following Brisa. Kippah shu tamei medris. Let's say you have a kippah, which is a scarf, and it is tamei medris. That means that a zav rested upon it and gave it this tumah. Unisanaso l'sefer, but then you designated it that it should be used as a cover for a sefer Torah. So that designation alone, tar min ha-medris, it makes it tar from tumas medris. Avol tamei, but it's still tamei at the lower level of tumas maga, because it was touched by something that was tamei. And so you see, designation alone is able to make it pure. You see that hazmona milsi, that seems to support Abaye. It's a question on Rava. And the Gemara answers, Eimon nisanaso v'karchaso. You'll have to say that what the Brisa means is not only was it designated for a Sefer Torah, but it actually was used. They used it, they wrapped a Sefer Torah in it, so you had a Maisa as well, you had an action as well. But the Gemara says, Lama li nisanaso v'karchaso, but if that's the case, why does it need to be designated and you use it, and you wrap the Sefer Torah with it? Just the action alone should be good enough. Why does it need to say nisanaso? And the Gemara says to that, Kid Rav Chisda, that follows Rav Chisda. The Yamar Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda says, Hai sudra da azmane l'meitzar beit tefillin, let's say you have a cloth, and it was designated that you were going to use it for tefillin, v'tzar beit tefillin, and it was actually used for tefillin, asr l'meitzar beit pshite, then you can't use it to put coins in it, but azmane v'lo tzar beit, if it was designated but you didn't actually use it, or tzar beit v'lo azmane, let's say it was used but it wasn't designated, shari l'meitzar beit pshite, then it's permitted to put the coins in it. So in other words, it's not enough the action, you need the designation as well. But again, it's not a question on Rava, because you have both the action and the designation in that Brisa with regards to the Tamei Medris. And the Gemara continues, Uli Abaye. Now, according to Abaye, the Yamar Hazmona Milsi, because again, Abaye is the one that says that designation is significant. So then actually it all depends on designation. Azmene Afa Gav the Lo Tzarbe, again, in the case of the Tefillin, if it was designated, even if you didn't actually use it, or Tzarbe, and let's say you did use it, Azmene in, so then again, it depends on the designation. If it was designated for that, then yes, Ilo Azmene Lo, but without the the designation, so then it is not forbidden. And Rashi explains, tar min ha-medris, again, the scarf is tar from tumas medris if it was designated for a Sefer Torah. Below sham tefillah, the point of the brayso is you don't need any immersion. To batale shem medris, because now by saying it's for a Sefer Torah, it no longer is something that a person sits down upon. It's not used for medris. Diomram lo amod v'nasam alachtenu, because this kind of a vessel, or in this case, this particular kippah, this scarf, is amod v'nasam alachtenu. You're supposed to pick it up, stand up, and you do work with it. Ve'eno metame od adam v'kelim. So it doesn't have that higher level of tumas medris, and it's not going to be metame people or vessels, avol shem kli olav. But still, at this point in time, it is still a vessel. It is not a vessel that can have tumas medris, but it is considered a kli. Sha'af mitfachas asfarim metamos tumas maga. Even if you use something for Sefer Torah as a cover, it still has tumas maga. If someone tamei touches it, v'zehare naga bi'atzmo ba'odo medris. And this person, he touched it at that time. Uchsha'avad shem medris mimeno. Even though it's lost the shem medris, mikol makam adayin kli, it's still a vessel. V'nishar all of tumas maga. It still will remain with the tumas maga. Sharehu roy lo midiktani tarmin ha-medris ba'azmona bi'alma. Alma has hazmona milsi. In any case, the whole point of the proof is that it's tar from medris just with designation. You see that designation is significant. That was the question on Rava. And the Gemara answered, the Brayso is not talking only with designation, but it was used as well. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, the following proof, Nefesh Shabanu L'Shem Chai. Let's say you have a monument, and it was built for somebody who's alive, so mutter b'hano, it's mutter to derive benefit, it's not built for a mace, so it's no problem. However, Hosef Bo Dimos Echad L'Shem Mace, let's say they added even one row of stones, and they did it for the sake of a mace, that's designation, Asr b'hano, so it's forbidden to derive benefit, and so you see that Hazmona Milsi, again, it seems to support Abaya, that Hazmona, that designation is significant. And the Gemara answers, Hachav Mayaskin, and here what are we talking about? It wasn't just designation. The Rama Bay mace, what actually happened was, they placed a mace underneath that monument, and that's why it was actually used for that purpose. That's why it's Asr B'Hanoah. But the Gemara continues, if so, if the case over here is Rama Bay mace, so my area Yosef, why do you have to even talk about adding a row of stones? Kilo Hosef Nami, when you don't add as well, but now you put the mace over there, so of course it's going to be Asr B'Hanoah. And the Gemara continues and answers, Lo no tzrich, it's necessary, afagav depanya, because what happened over here was, they put a mace there, but then they cleared the mace away. So in that situation where they cleared the mace away, if you have hosif, if you added on a row of stones, so then already you have a maisa, then you're going to say it continues to be usr. But if they would not have added a row of stones once they clear away the mace, so everything would be fine. And the Gemara continues along these lines, Amar Rafram bar Papa, Amar Rav Chisda. Rafram bar Papa says, that Rav Chisda says, Im hoya makiro, let's say again, they cleared away the mace and they recognize the row of stones that was added, so cholzot, so he can remove those stones, umutter, and then again it will be mutter to derive benefit. And Rashi explains, lo no tzrich, it's necessary, high host, if the reason why we're talking about a case specifically of adding a row of stones, el lashmin and diafagav depanya lemeis lacharzman, it's to teach us, even though you cleared the dead body after some time, mitoch hakever, from that grave, hakever asr b'hana, mishum hosef, still, the kever remains asr b'hana because of what was added, dahavale hazmona umaisa, because again, you now have designation plus an action, to lo hosef, because if he wouldn't have added anything, shari would actually be permitted, if you cleared it to have like kitsar bevelo azmane, that would be similar to having an action but not having any designation. And again, imhoya makiro, if you recognize laoso dimos, if you recognized again that which he added, so then he can remove it and it would be mutter. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here a proof from the following brayso, hachotsev kever liyaviv, if somebody digs a grave for his father, v'holach v'kavra b'kever acher, but then he goes ahead and he doesn't use that grave for his father, he buries his father in another grave, harei yikaver bo olamis, he can't be buried there forever, that area, apparently through designation alone, becomes asr b'hanoah. And so therefore you see again that Hazmona Milsi, it sounds like designation is significant. And the Gemara says not necessarily Hasam over there, Mishum Kavod Aviv, it's specifically because we were talking about his father. It's not that the designation made it considered a kever that it's asr, but rather out of respect for his father, he should not use that grave. And the Gemara says, Hachanami Mistavra, makes sense to say like this. The Katani Seifa, because it says at the end of the Brayso, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Af hachotzev avonim la'aviv, even if all he did was because he hewed stones for his father. He was just cutting the stones that they would eventually be used by the kever. Then he goes ahead and buries the father somewhere else. You can't use those stones at all. So if you're going to say that's prohibited out of respect for his father, that would be okay. That would make sense. But if you say it's the designation that makes it usher, so tavoy la'ariga, let's say for example, a person would just spin cloth in order to eventually weave it for burial shrouds. Does anyone say that that's a significant enough designation that would count for anything? The same thing with chotzei v'avonim, just because you're getting the stones ready, that would not be a significant designation at all. The designation certainly alone in that situation would not make it usher, so it must be it's because of kavod aviv, because of the respect for his father. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here a proof from the following brisa, kever chodesh, if you have a new grave, mutter b'hano, it is permitted to get benefit. Hitel bo nefel, if he puts a nefel in there, a non-viable baby, he buries it there, so then there's an action, then asr b'hano, then it's forbidden to get benefit. And the Gemara says hitel in, it sounds like if he puts the baby there, so then we say yes, it's asr. Below hitel lo, but if he doesn't put the baby there, if there's just designation, apparently it is mutter. You see that designation is insignificant, and this is a support for Rava. And the Gemara says, no, hu adin, the afagav de lo hitel. The truth is, even in a situation where he doesn't put a nefel there, we would actually say that designation alone could make it usr in theory. But over here, we're talking about a situation where there was an action with a nefel for a different reason. Here we want to exclude Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion, because Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Ein lenefalim tfisas hakever. There is no tfisas hakever. We'll see Rashi in a moment when it comes to nefel. Kamash malon. So it's teaching us over here, if you put a nefel there, then we have tfisas hakever. That's the chiddush of this brisa. And Rashi explains, kever chodesh, if it's a new grave, hashtak asal gadayda chafilu zimno lemeis. Right now we think we're talking even where there was designation, lo hita lo, and again, if you didn't put the nefel there, it would not be asr, v'yafagav dehizmin. Apparently, even though there was designation, it sounds like designation is insignificant. But then the Gemara says, no, hu adin afagav de lo hitel. Over here we're talking, it could be asr even if he did not put the nefel there. Designation would be significant, but here we're not talking with designation. The kever chodesh dekama, here where it says a new grave, kishechatzvo le'adam chai, he dug it for someone that was still alive. That's not really designation. O stam, or just stam likashit starich. It wasn't for any particular mace. It was just being dug for when it's necessary. V'hai dekama hitel. The reason why we're talking about a case like that, and then again it was actually used for a nefel, mishum deboy lashminan, because we want to teach a different chiddush. The following: the nefel tofes kivro laosro afagav shepineu. Tfisas hakever means that even if you clear the nefel, even if you remove the nefel from the grave, it is still going to be usr. So that's what we're trying to teach in this brisa. Ulafukid Rabbi Shimon Meseches Olos. That goes against Rabbi Shimon's opinion in Meseches Olos. He says there's no tfisas hakever when it comes to a nefel. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here a proof from the following Mishnah in Meseches Shkolim, Moser ha-mesim l'mesim. Let's say they collect money for the burial of the dead and they have extra money, so that should be used for the burial of other dead people. This is talking about when they collect money in general for mesim, not for any specific mace. Moser ha-mes. Now, if they have leftover money for a particular mace, liyarshav, that goes to his heirs, and that would indicate that designation is not significant. Hazmona lav milsa, because now the yarshim are allowed to use it. It doesn't become asr b'hana. It seems to be a proof for Rava. And the Gemara says, and here what are we talking? Shegavu mechayim. The money was actually collected while the people were alive. They hadn't died yet, and therefore it's not really collected, designated for them when they are died. It's not a case of hasmana at all, and that's why it is mutter. But the Gemara continues, halotani hachi, but it wasn't taught that way, to say that we were talking about gavu mechayim. The Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, moser ha-mesim l'mesim, again, the extra money collected for the mesim, that goes to other mesim, to the dead. Moser ha-mes liyarshav, and if it's extra money for a particular mace, it goes to his heirs. V'tani Allah, and we taught on that, Ketzad, how so? Gavu l'mesim stam, if they just collected for mesim in general, as we said, zeu moser ha-mesim l'mesim, that's talking about the leftover money for mesim in general, goes to mesim in general. Gavu l'mes zeh, but if they collect for this mace, for this dead person, clearly the person has already died, zehu moser ha-mes liyarshav, there the extra money goes to his heirs, and so again, it seems like they are collecting for a mace, and hazmana is lav milsa. The designation is not significant. But the Gemara continues, but according to your reasoning that you're asking for from this Mishnah, let's look at the end of the very same Mishnah. Rabbi Meir says, lo yigabohen, you're not allowed to touch that extra money until until Eliyahu Hanavi comes and clarifies. And so Rabbi Meir seems to be saying that at the very least there's a suffix that maybe the designation is significant, and it's Aser B'Hana. And Rabbi Nosson says, Yasenu Dimas al Kivro, you have to use that in order to make another row of stones on the burial site. Ozilaf Lifnei Mitasor, you'll sprinkle fragrant wine by Mitaso, by his kever. And so, again, according to Rabbi Nosson, also it seems like the designation is significant. You're not allowed to use this for any other purpose. It is Aser B'Hana. So instead of asking from the Tanakama, you could be asking, instead of supporting Rava from the Tanakama, you could be asking on Rava from the Seifa of the Mishnah. And so the Gemara continues, Ela Abaye Metaris L'Taimei, V'Rava Metaris L'Taimei. Rather, Abaye will answer according to his reasoning, and Rava will answer according to his reasoning. Abaye Metaris L'Taimei, Abaye will answer according to his reasoning. To Kuli Alma Hazmana Milsi, really all of the Tanoim, they all hold that designation is significant. If the designation is significant, it should be a problem. But the Gemara explains as follows. Tanakama Savar, the Tanakama holds, to Chazi Le'Tafis, what they collect, if it's actually needed, that amount of money, so then already it's Tafis, it's going to be Aser B'Hana. To Lo Chazi Lo Tafis, but if it's Lo Chazi if they collected extra, that's not really considered part of the collection at all, and therefore there is no Isser. For Rabbi Meir Mesafka, Rabbi Meir, he's in doubt, Tafis, Lo Tafis, whether or not, again, it takes hold or not, is there an Isser or not, Hilkach Lo Yiga Bahen, Ad Sheyavo Eliyahu, therefore he shouldn't touch it until Eliyahu Hanavi comes. For Rabbi Nosson, Pshita Le Devadai Tafis, and Rabbi Nosson, he is certain that it certainly does take hold, it is Aser B'Hana, Hilkach Yasadimus Al Kivro, therefore you should use the funds in order to make another row of stones over his grave. And the Gemara continues, V'Rava Metaris L'Taimei, and Rava can answer according to his reasoning. L'Kuli Alma Hazmana Lav Milsi, according to everybody, designation is nothing. Tanakama Savar Ki Bazu Le Achule Machel Ziluse Gabe Yorshin. Now, according to this, if designation is nothing, so really we're not talking about Isser Hana at all over here. What we're actually talking about is this is a bizoyan, it's like a disgrace for the mace. And so the question is whether the mace is mochel. The Tanakama holds that, again, Ki Bazu Le, when they disgrace, Achule Machel Ziluse Gabe Yorshin, he's willing to be mochel, that the heirs should be able to use those funds. The mace is willing to be mochel on his embarrassment, on his shame, so to speak. For Rabbi Meir, Mesafkalei Machli Lo Machel, Rabbi Meir is in doubt whether he forgives or not. Hilkach Lo Yiga Bahen V'Chulu, therefore it shouldn't be touched until Eliyahu Hanavi comes. For Rabbi Nosson, Pshita Le Lo Machel, and according to Rabbi Nosson, it's obvious that there's no forgiveness. Hilkach Yasa Dimas Al Chavero, therefore again, either use it as another row of stones over his grave, Ozilaf Lefnei Mitaso, or again it should be sprinkled fragrant wine in front of his kever, in front of his grave. And Rashi explains, Mitaretz L'Taimei L'Ukmei Kulei Tanoi Kavase, again, each Amor is able to say that the entire thing goes like him. And Rashi continues, Lav Milsihi, it could be according to Rava, everybody holds that Hazmana designation is nothing. But Taimayu with Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Nosson, and according to that, the reasoning of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Nosson, Lav Mishum Isurei Hana, it has nothing to do with Isurei Hana. This has nothing to do with the fact that it's Aser B'Hana, because the designation was insignificant. Ela Lefishin is Baza Hameis Alei, and rather the reason is because there was a certain disgrace over here, Kishagavu Osam Bishmo, when they had to collect this money for him. That's something that's degrading. Tanakama Savar Mechayim Achle Leziluse. According to Tanakama, when he was alive already, he forgave this. And he prefers, it's fine with him that he's degraded, so to speak, in this fashion after his death, because there's a certain benefit to the Yarshim. And so again, that would be the Machlokas Tanoim in this Mishnah. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here the following proof from a Braisa, Hayu Aviv v'Imo Mizarkin Bokelim. Let's say his father and his mother, a son dies, and the father and the mother are throwing now garments over there in their distress. Mitzvah l'hacherim l'hatzilan. It's a mitzvah on other people that they should save those garments. Rashi explains, Mizarkin Bokelim Zorkin Bigdayim Olav Yosem Natzorech. They're throwing their garments on him more than necessary, because of their love for him, and because they're in pain. Miskavin lesser as kol mamonim olav. They want to make all of their property forbidden because of him. So in such a situation, mitzvah al ha'acherim, or mitzvah al ha'acherim haroin osam, it's a mitzvah on others who see this, latzil to try to save those clothing. V'lidlon may olav, to take them from on him. Dein hashavas aveda gadol mizeh. There's no greater hashavas aveda than this. Alma hazmana lav milsi. You see that designation is nothing from this brisa. The milsi he lekatzola, because if the designation was something, so then it would already be forbidden b'hana. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Memches Amid Beis.